Hello and welcome to Off the Tangent podcast with me, Zak Bream. Our guest joining me today is someone I got to know very well as we worked side by side interning at an automotive engineering company. He is currently pursuing his master's degree in engineering at the University of Oxford and secured himself a graduate scheme working as an electrical engineer at a tech company. I'm excited to explore how his beliefs have shaped his personal and professional journey and to delve into the fascinating overlap between the religion and sciences. Welcome to the podcast, Ioan Whomsley.
Hello.
How are you doing, man?
How are you? I'm good. Yeah.
Good stuff. I'm
living life.
I'm excited to jump into kind of like your upbringing and your background. So I want you to start off by kind of painting me a picture of like the story of your life up to this point. Maybe perhaps what your parents did, like where you grew up, and tell me a bit about that.
So my parents, they both work in the pharmaceutical industry, and they and they worked in Belgium for quite some time, for 10 years. So I was born in Belgium, growing up in a French school, but then for jobs we moved back to the UK, and grew up in the Hampshire area down south, just south of London, which is quite cool. And spent there most of my life there. Went to a few different schools there, and then I got a place at Oxford. And at the same time, my parents moved to Cardiff, so I was kind of now in between Cardiff and Oxford. And also my parents moved to London at the same time. So
a lot going on, basically.
Yeah.
Yeah. So what age did you move to Belgium? Because I want to get into that. What age did you move back to the UK?
So I moved when I was 5. So I came into year 1 of halfway through year 1 of school when I moved back to the UK. And so I didn't really. My sisters were a lot older. Well, somewhat older. So they grew up speaking French, and they were fluent in French right now. But yeah. I had to try and do my French accent when I came here, but it's gone. It's disappeared.
Yeah, because I think it's interesting moving countries, because I think I'm in a similar experience to you, where when I was born in the UK, but we moved to France when I was very, very young, and so I lived in France for a couple of years, and I went to a French school, spoke French, but then we moved back when I was age 4 or 5. So I have very slight memories for it. Do you remember what it was like coming back to the UK, or were you too young? Do you remember if it was strange at all to move back to the UK from Belgium, or what was it like?
To be fair, I don't think it was. It was weird. It wasn't weird for me, I don't think, because I don't know, at 5 years old, I think 5-year-old children are quite similar wherever you are. So moving back to the UK, I didn't really know what was going on. It was just going on holiday, but then the holiday was extended kind of thing.
Come to the end, yeah.
Yeah. But it was. I know it's quite different from my at least for my older sister, because she had to skip a year as well, because the school system was different, and because the years started at different times, and obviously she was I don't know, it's kind of a different sort of culture in a way. So I think for myself it was fun, but I think for other people. What about yourself? Did you
I think it was. I came back. I must have come back later than you, because I remember joining end of year 2, going to year 3, and I just remember. So I must have been near 7 or 8 years old or something, and I just remember not being able to spell. That was my biggest issue. was in class, I couldn't write in English at all, and I just remember having, if there was one of my oldest memories from this was every Friday in class, you'd have to write a story, and they'd give you an hour to write a whole story. And I had all these ideas, but I couldn't write properly. I couldn't spell anything. And I just remember having to ask the people sitting around me how to spell pretty much every single word. So that's an old memory of mine.
Did you write Franglish or whatever, you writing some words in French instead of English?
It's hard to imagine what my spelling was like, because I remember when I moved to France, I only spoke English. So I would go to school speaking half English, half French. And I remember one day my mum put loads of sun cream on my face, And I went to school, and all the kids were like, "Why is your face like white? Why does it have sun? Like, what is that?" They didn't know what it was, and I only knew the French word for yogurt, so I just told them that I had yogurt on my face, like, and they thinking that was perfectly natural. So it must have been some half hybrid English-French sort of speak. I don't know. I don't know how that. Maybe the other kids just thought I was some weird ape, like didn't know how to speak English or didn't know how to speak at all. I don't know. So you moved back to the UK, and you went to state school. How long were you at that school for?
Well, so I went to like a state well, to be fair, yeah, I went to a state primary, and then I went to state secondary for a couple of years, until like year 8, and then after that I transitioned to like sort of a private school, because my dad got a new job and they paid for private school, so they wanted to take the opportunity.
Yeah.
And then went back to a college, state college.
Do you think that sort of transition to a private school was difficult? Because I think I didn't go to a private school. I went to a state school, but my girlfriend went from a state school to a private school, and she said that it's quite a difficult experience. Like, I think that she said that a lot of the people are it's a different sort of culture, different people are from different backgrounds, so it's quite a difficult transition. Would you say that's accurate? How did you find the experience?
Yeah, I mean, it was definitely like very different. Like, I don't know, you had to be. I remember coming. I felt like there was a lot more pressure on me as like a student in a way, at a private school, because like, I don't know, I felt like, obviously now someone's paying for my education, like I have to kind of try a bit harder. I remember feeling that. I remember being like, and also I feel like it was a bit more of a competitive environment. And also it is quite different. Like the people, I don't know, I don't want to say they're that different, but they are, like, there is a difference. I feel like in some of the people that go there, they're like, yeah. So
what do you think those main differences are?
Like, it's just like you grow up in like kind of a different circle, I guess. It's just like, I don't know. At least with some of the people, I didn't sort of get along with as well. But there were others that were chill, and I had some good friends. So it was good. But yeah, it was definitely. I think it was challenging at first, but then it's quite nice to like. I don't know. I felt like I was quite lucky, like to get to sort of. I don't know. There's more. The classes are smaller, so you get more focus. So you get like, I don't know, slightly more help with different matters, which was quite nice.
That makes sense. I think the reason why I think there would be a difference, obviously I'm just theorizing and also like trying to get your experience with it and like thoughts on it, is that so throughout school, when I joined secondary school, I joined in like, they didn't give my exam results to my secondary school, so I started in all the bottom sets. And I remember I basically like over the next few years just worked my way up to like the top set, but I spent each year in the like making my way up, and the atmosphere in each class was completely different. It was almost like the lower sets, people just didn't really care, and I think it's because they didn't couldn't really be bothered with it. But it was almost like people messed around a lot more. No one really wanted to learn, and then you get towards the top sets, and it's people like were super focused, and it was almost like people wanted to do more work, and it's almost like encouraged me to do more work as well, put my effort in, because people wanted to discuss the topics you were doing and stuff like that. So would you say that's what it felt like going to a private school, where people suddenly were almost like wanting more to learn, or is it that they're smaller classes so that people had like more focus from the teachers so that it felt like more enjoyable? What would you say is?
I mean, I think there were like in both, the school I was at, like the two schools I was at, there were definitely like, what do you call it? Like some people just didn't want to be there. And they didn't want to learn, I guess. And that's fair. But I reckon more in the top sets, there were definitely like more like hardworking people, and I felt like, I I guess that did like sort of almost focus yourself, because you're like, these people around me are focusing, so I'm focusing. And maybe that, yeah. But in terms of like across the sets, I don't think there was actually that different in terms of like people's attitudes towards learning, to be fair. I thought it was actually quite similar, because I mean, I don't know, I thought, yeah, I didn't really notice that much of a difference between people's attitudes. It's just more like, I felt like maybe in the top sets, but I wasn't. We didn't have sets. So when I was in the state school I was at, we didn't have sets there.
Oh,
so
really?
Like, it was everyone was, well, I think they did the sets later, so everyone was in like the same kind of set for the first couple of years.
What do you think? What do you think about that? Because so my girlfriend's from Denmark, and they don't do sets there at all.
Yeah.
And it's almost like you get a mixture of abilities in different class, and she really praises that and says that it's almost like you get the different ability people teach each other. It's like you work together, even though someone might be strong math, someone's not, and then they help each other, and it's almost like encourages collaboration in that sense. Whereas I argued that, from my experience at least, in the lower sets, people didn't really care and they messed about, and it affected learning. So like, to have a mixed class like that, to me, it doesn't really make as much sense, because you have people that don't. Like, why should people mix with people that don't really care? Like, what are your thoughts on it?
Yeah, well, in the other school I was at, so it's called Church College, we had the English set was mixed, and like the other sets weren't mixed. It was a bit weird.
Yeah,
I don't know why. I'm like, I wasn't that good at English, so hence why I'm studying engineering. But they they yeah, as in the mixed set, really, I don't think it helped me, I can't lie. Because yeah, I feel like it was just an excuse kind of to mess about.
yeah,
Like, I feel like as soon as like you're in a mix, there's like no I want to say like sort of competition against the other people in the class, because I knew I was like worse than like a lot of people in the class already. So it's just like, if I try, like, I'm not gonna, I have no hope, basically. I mean, it was useful to hear their ideas though.
yeah.
Like, it was useful in that sense. Like, I was like obviously listening into what they were saying, but I was just like, I'm never gonna be able to do that. So maybe, but I understand why they like. I can understand why they do, because like you hear, like, if you're just in like bottom set, or like if the bottom sets the whole time, you're not gonna necessarily be challenged as much, maybe.
It's interesting you talk about competition, because I think it leads us nicely onto the next topic, because I think in engineering is super, super competitive, and you get people doing a lot of work. And I feel that oftentimes people would be in secondary school and A-levels, and they're doing quite well in their class. And then, speaking from experience, I get into engineering at university, and it's almost like I jumped up into the deep end, and you get all these people that sit like just super intelligent, and they're like light years ahead of just everything, and they understand everything so well. And it's almost like that feeling of like imposter syndrome and like competition. And it's like such a different feeling. Do you think you felt that going to Oxford? Was that a difficult thing?
Yeah. No, it is kind of different. Like, definitely when I first joined Oxford, it was because you go from like being like sort of quite good in your class to like being like either smack bang average or like below average, and then I was just like, oh, okay, well, great. So it's kind of like you see all these people like do I just like, oh, what's the point? But so for the first, like, I'd say like term I was in Oxford, or like first term and a half, I was kind of like put off, because I was just like, there was no like saying like, oh, you know what, I'm happy with, like, kind of content with it. And then yeah, so it was kind of challenging at the start, I reckon, but then decided, you know what, I'm gonna really just try hard, like really try hard. And so I started, like, it kind of like, I decided to change my attitude basically, and just use it as motivation rather than to just be like, you know what, I'm just gonna let it be.
Yeah, the competition fueled
So
you.
yeah, yeah. But at the start, it was definitely like a real like challenge. And it still is, to be fair. Like I go around like talking to people, and I'm just like in my cool. Like, I don't understand. Like even with you, to be fair, like about electronics and stuff. Like I'm like this guy like knows so much. I'm like I don't. I'm like supposed to be an electrical engineer. I'm like I don't know.
See, I
But
think
other
that's funny you
people,
say that. I think that's funny you say that because when, like, obviously when we worked together, I felt the opposite as well, where I felt like I knew nothing working with you because you're so good at the theory and the physics. And when we discussed, especially so to explain to listeners, me and Ioan had a mentor at work. His name was Steve, and Steve is he's an older guy. He's near retirement, and he's just a fantastic engineer. I mean, he knows so much, and he just has such good theoretical understanding of almost everything. I feel like you can ask Steve a question about anything, and he will give you basically a half an hour lecture given by a professional on this topic, right? So this was me and Johan's mentor at this company, and Steve will sit with us in meetings and kind of go through all this like electronic theory. And I just said that I was like, I just had no idea what's going on whatsoever. And I feel like you definitely had a better understanding of the physics and what was going on there. I had absolutely no clue. But in terms of like competition incentive, since that point, I have got some physics books I've been working through because it does like it's almost like you want to know what's going on. You want to understand.
yeah, no, you do. Like, yeah, Steve was so good. Like I don't know how he knew how much he knew. To be fair, he was. But yeah, well, to be fair, when he was explaining some stuff, like to you, like I remember also you were talking about like PLCs and like is that PL? Yeah, or and like oh no, and
Yeah,
like
PLCs is right.
yeah, and also you were able to design circuits and stuff, and you knew like how to like program like your like the chips you like the Arduinos and stuff. It was just
Yeah,
like I had no idea what was going on. So I reckon it like my theory is like it was okay, but like when it came to actually like trying to test stuff and actually build things in practice, I think your knowledge was so much better in that sense. But yeah, it's been actually my project this year. I'm working with like actual hardware, um, and so I'm having to learn it now,
that's good.
which is great. Like I'm happy I've got the opportunity to be able to
Tell
actually.
me about your projects. I want to hear about it.
So I'm working on so basically it's a headset, um, and it's I don't know if you know what an EEG is, but it's like basically it's you measure like the brain waves in the
Mhm.
head.
Yeah,
So
nice.
like so obviously your brain like produces electrical impulses all the time, and like they're very low like voltage. But if you put like a conductive material just by the head, you can pick them up in like either voltage or in current,
Okay.
depending on what you use. Similar to like the sensor we work on,
Yeah.
and then the you take those, and then you basically look at either a really clever like doctor looks at them, or you put it into like a machine learning like algorithm, and like you can at least for you can do a lot with them, but for our project we're seeing if we can get probability out about whether someone has epilepsy or not, just from looking at the brainwaves in a normal like kind of setting, in a relaxed setting. And so
What's the indicator that someone might have epilepsy? Like what sort of thing would it show?
I, I I actually don't know.
That's
So
fair.
I'm building the software to
Okay.
I'm building the headset to like actually get the signal out and
Okay.
focusing on how to get a good signal. But people with epilepsy tend to have like more like hyperactive brains.
Okay.
So I could guess maybe there's some high frequency like signals that the brain has maybe if you have epilepsy, or there's like high maybe voltage spikes compared to someone who doesn't have epilepsy. So that might be an indicator. Don't quote me on that, but I'm
Yeah.
guessing it'll be something similar to that.
That's really interesting.
So yeah, yeah. And the headset with design. So usually it takes like ages to like put one of these EEG headsets on. I don't know if anyone's had one before, but it's like you have to put like loads of gel on the hair. You gotta grease it up. You gotta scratch the hair,
Are you doing that
and then you gotta
yourself?
put like
Are you putting it on them?
yeah.
You giving them a
Well,
massage?
no, No, yeah, I don't think they trust me. They probably kick me out if I started. Like, why did they do that?
You need to get a health and safety
Um,
training course before you can do that.
so yeah, so basically, it's just a real pain. It takes ages, and so we're trying to build a headset that kind of it's a lot harder to get a good signal from it, but like get good enough signal, so that you can do something with it, and I guess that's the aim of our project.
Okay,
And I've been working on something else.
So you make the electronic circuit to read the brainwaves. Are you just making the circuit, or do you have to do? So you get those signals from the brain, and then you might have to put it through some like signal processing. Is the circuit you're designing having some sort of like signal processing, or are you just doing the like the sensors at the moment to measure those brainwaves?
Just at the moment, we're just doing the sensors, and we've got we barely have any signal We've got a filter on it.
Okay.
Just get rid of the high frequency stuff, and then all the signal processing is done on the chip that we have. It'll be done on the headset itself, but it's done in a chip in the headset, so it's kind of all it's done digitally, basically.
I think that technology is super exciting because I've seen so many applications of it. I saw a streamer who had her own one of those, and she linked the different brain signals that the sensors would pick up. She linked to different keys on her keyboard, and then she was playing games using her brain just to think about like moving, and then she would move and shoot. It was very impressive.
That's not.
Yeah.
That's not what would she do? What games was she playing with that? Like, were they
pretty difficult games, to be fair. She's playing like Counter-Strike, like she played Minecraft as well, things like that. It was quite funny to watch. And so it's almost like she would train. She would think about an action, so she'd think about moving forward, and then obviously your brain, when you think about an action, it's kind of like almost like doing it. So she would think about moving forward in the game, and that would release a certain signals, and then she would think about that 100 times and take that average signal would be associated with that action, and then she'd do that for all these different actions, and then put it into like a program where she would run, and it would almost see like, okay, which signal is it measuring, and then do the action in the game. And she said she had to really focus, like she streamed these games for like 2 hours, so in those 2 hours she'd have to really focus, like thinking about her actions, and it would translate to the movement in game. But it's super impressive.
That is mad. That is so cool. That is really cool, to be fair. I don't think our headset would be that advanced, but that is impressive.
At the end of the year.
Maybe that's the aim, to one up this person in the game, beat them at like brain versus brain, like a 1v1.
All that sort of technology is very impressive. The Elon Musk Neuralink that works differently.
Yeah,
it's just that I don't. See, the Neuralink confuses me a bit more because it's different to is it called the EEG? Is that what you said? The EEG sort of headset, it covers your whole head, so it's almost like it measures the brainwaves at all different points. But these chips that Neuralink's are using are very small, and they're just implanted in. I don't really understand how they work.
So, like, I mean, I don't fully know how they work, but like, obviously, an EEG is like non-invasive, and so like you're not like cutting into anyone's skull in order to put it in. But the problem is like between like your brain and like the outside of your head, there's like you got your skull, you got that fluid, I don't know what it's called again, but like you got like skin, and that really like messes up the signals. So you can do some stuff with it, but it's very like low quality signal. Whereas the kind of chips they have, they're like you can implant them, and they're like you get a very good like locality, like you know where the signal's coming from, like exactly. And so, I mean, I don't fully know why they decide which location to choose or which location is best. But you can get a much higher quality signal and like a lot sort of more. You can be a lot more confident about what the signal's doing. And in the same way, you can put impulses in, I guess, at the same time.
Like send commands almost.
Yeah. Which is kind of scary.
It is quite scary. I think so. The application, the Neuralink application from Elon Musk company at the moment, I saw it's been implanted in someone that's fully paralyzed, so they don't have any movement in their body. they can't control a mouse, they can't use a keyboard, so they put one of the chips in, and now they're using the chip. You can now think about moving a mouse on a screen and typing things on the keyboard, and it does it. So he can now. I saw the first night of that person having the chip in his brain. He spent the whole night playing Civilization 6, the game, and he plays loads of chess now and can browse the internet. So I suppose at the moment it's kind of in medical terms of giving freedom to people that can't have it. But as the future of the technology progresses, you're going to see more it becoming less invasive, more people getting them. And I think, to be honest, my prediction of what the technology will look like is it will almost be, you know how like in the brain you have different parts of the brain performing different functions. So you might have some is like for movement, some is memory, and they all kind of work together to perform, like to be that as yourself. I kind of see what the chips in the future will be like an extra part of your brain. They're almost like how you, let's say you try and think of a memory and you recall from that section of the brain a memory. Let's say you want to Google something, instead of typing on Google, you just use that other part, which is the chip, to Google something, or like research something, and you're like researching your brain. That's what I see the future of the technology being.
So like you're just uploading like memories. You just like you plug it in like that. Let me download the notes that I was supposed to learn, kind of thing.
Yeah. You have ChatGPT 4 in your brain, and it's just
No, yeah, that would be sick. To be fair. That'd be so useful.
Is that
just how, like you could?
Yeah, go on.
You could just upgrade your memory. Like, you know what? I'm tired of a terabyte. Like, I want like 5 terabits of like terabytes of extra memory, and just you could just become like a
superhuman.
Yeah,
that's going to be your next phase of your sensor headset.
Yeah. After this, after we crack this, we're gonna go back into like making like invasive like electrode implants. You can be our first test subject if you'd like.
Wow, that's interesting. I've thought so much about these chips, right, that go in your brain, because I think in 40 years' time, a lot of people are going to have chips. I think the main reason why I wouldn't have one of these chips is if someone hacked my chip, because imagine like when you go on like pirate movie sites or something and you get pop-up ads and you like click the screen and pop-up ads comes up. My biggest fear is that if I had one of these chips, someone hacked my chip, and then it kind of infiltrates your memories, and it comes up with like pop-up ads in your vision. Imagine you're just walking down the street and you're just getting constant pop-up ads, and you got paid like ransomware people money to get these pop-up ads. I've got that so I just can't. I don't think I'm ever going to get a chip just for that reason.
That's the only thing. You're like, nah, sorry, I'm scared of the pop-up ad. Well, would you pay like a $7.99 like subscription a month to
get rid of them? They're holding me hostage with the pop-up ads. I mean,
yeah, that would be dire. I can't lie.
Yeah,
but maybe that's a feature we should add.
That pop-up ads vision, or
yeah, like get a subscription. Like either you can have it for free, but we put pop-up ads in. Or you can pay like £10 a month, and we'll remove the pop-up ad.
If you do it for free, you have like your watermark on people's vision. Like, So going back to Oxford, you're starting your final year. You're doing your 4th year, your master's section of the course. What have you got? Any modules you're really enjoying so far? What's been fun about this year?
What's been fun about this year? Oh, that is a good question.
It doesn't necessarily have to be about your course. You can tell me about. I know you started rowing as well. You can tell.
Yeah. Modules. I mean, they've all been interesting, but like, there's nothing that no module that stands out just yet. It's just been interesting, like learning about like, I guess, deeper learning about how like certain electronics work, so learning how phones work. But rowing has been good fun. It's been like I'm not the most sporty guy, but like getting to get on a boat and like get on the river and train as a team has been like really good.
But tell me about rowing at Oxford. I don't know much about rowing. I've seen it in films. It looks very fun. I've seen that you have the boat, obviously, with like maybe like, I don't know how many people. You can tell me how many people, but then I've seen that there's almost like usually a person with a microphone or just shouting at everyone to encourage them. So tell me about all of rowing. Like, give me a little.
So you have like like a boat of like 8 people.
Yeah.
Usually you can have like 4, you can have like 1, but like the boat I'm in, it's 8 people. And you like each have like a side. So there's like yeah. So there's four oars on each side. And then there's the guy, like the person at the front is the cox. And like I've had like and when we're training, there's also a guy on the side with like a bike as
Bike?
well.
What's the purpose of the
And like
bike?
the bike, well, like the cogs can't see everything. Like they're looking directly down the boat. They can't see everything. The guy on the bike like can see like the whole boat.
Does he?
But
Does
the problem is,
Yeah, go on.
yeah,
I was just
yeah,
gonna
yeah.
say, does the bike person film it so that people like, or is
Oh
that
yeah. The bike guy does film it. To be
okay?
fair,
Okay,
bike
okay.
guy does film it. But they also call you out. Like you're not pulling your weight. They're like, right, number 6. What was that? Like, or like, do you know how to row? Like you just get like smoked for like no reason. And like I remember one of my first training sessions. It was the most stressful thing because I was like having the cook shout at me from one end, and like the guy on the bike shout at me from the other end, and I was like, I just got on the boat. Like, I don't know what I'm doing. I was like, what? I debated jumping in, like just let me
What are
go.
they shouting at you? They're just like you're rowing too slow or you're out of speed.
Yeah, like keep in time, or like raise your oar slightly, or like head up, or like stop looking at your oar, like look at the person in front of you, kind of
Yeah.
thing. Because basically, it's all about timing. It's all about keeping in time with the rest of the boat.
Okay. Okay.
Like that's the main thing is keeping in a good time, good rhythm. Because if one person is out of time, like the whole boat's unbalanced, and then you start like going up and
Right.
down, and you actually start slowing down the boat.
Okay. I see.
So they really want to make sure everyone's in time. But when you're like, when I don't even know how to row, like trying to figure out like
Did they give you a
staying in time.
tutorial before? Like, did they give you a little lesson, or they just threw you in the boat?
They did. But some people take longer than others to learn. You
They
know,
do. That's
some
very
like
true. That's very true.
so they gotta cut some people some slack. That's all I'm saying.
I'm just imagining post your first the first session, and the guy you go to a little presentation meeting, and they've got like the video of you just, and they're like, look at everything that's going wrong here. It's like they're just highlighting all the mistakes. Like, this is where you can improve.
They're just like zooming in on one person on the bus.
Yeah.
And this is where we can improve.
Oh.
But yeah, it's been good fun. I mean, I've been like I didn't really train much last term. But I do want to kind of race this term. In like they have this thing called bumps or torpids, where basically you row. You basically each person goes off in like basically you're in the boats are in rows of different teams, and each boat in front has like a certain advantage kind of thing. Like you're a certain distance away, and basically you have to try and catch up with the boat in front of you kind of thing. And as soon as like one tiny bit of your boat goes in front of their boat, like the most back bit of their boat, that's it, they're out. So
Okay.
basically, it was just like trying to get the people in front. It's quite a intense.
Is that like is that practice, or is that like an actual event they do as like races? Like what's that? Is that like a
So
fun
it's an
game?
actual event. So
Okay.
there's like 2 main races. There's the summer race, and then there's torpids. And so this term will be torpids. But yeah, so that'll be that. Hopefully, I can get in that. But like, yeah, again, it's quite intense. And I haven't raced before. I can barely row in the boat, so like gotta keep it up.
Yeah, I think that's super
But they
exciting.
also have, yeah, it'll be exciting. They also have other things like the worst thing is rowing machine.
Yes.
I don't know if it's just an Oxford thing, but they call it an erg here. I don't know if that's
I've not heard that before.
yeah. I hadn't either. It was there's like honestly it's the worst kind of cardio. Like I remember we used to run like together.
Yeah,
Like,
that was difficult.
this like it's like honestly it's something else. I mean it's just rowing.
Yeah.
I mean rowing's like but so yeah. It's
See,
it's a lot of effort, but I'm gonna get there.
that's good. That's very good. See, I used to do so much rowing at the gym because I've never rowed in real life, but I found that machine really fun, and it works everything. It's doing your arms as you pull, and you kind of got to.
Yeah,
Well, in
exactly.
the rowing machine, I think it might be a slightly different technique because you kind of push off with your legs a little bit. You're pushing away.
Yeah,
But I think my technique was wrong because I was using my lower back too much, and I was I was just getting back pains. I kind of stopped doing it.
oh, I see.
Maybe
Yeah,
next time we go gym, yeah, you can show me the proper technique on the side.
yeah. Oh, yeah.
You're the expert
A
now
professional
in
will show
rowing.
you how it's done. Yeah. Now, to be fair, it was only until recently that I stopped using my back because I got told off for like doing that.
Oh,
So
really?
I was getting really bad backache as well.
Yeah,
And they
it's
were like,
really bad.
"Yo, you're not supposed to do it like that." I was like, "Oh, okay."
I just couldn't fix my
Yeah,
technique.
I was putting my all into it, but I didn't realize you did. You could get on the boat. Next time if you come down, I'll get you
I
on the boat.
I don't
You've
know if
already
I could
done
deal with the
training.
I don't know if I could deal with the cock screaming at me and the man on the bike. I don't know. Might be a bit too intense.
Yeah. I try to tell myself it's fun.
Yeah. No, I mean it's good. I think it's good
No,
to
it
get
is fun.
exercise.
It is.
Do you think
It is.
do you think it's important at Oxford, like with the highly competitive nature, everyone focusing a lot on academia? Do you think it's important to have other things like hobbies like rowing and stuff like that to
Yeah.
keep you like grounded in a way?
Yeah, 100%. Because like it's so easy to just, I don't know, lock yourself away, or like, because the culture's like that. Everyone's like trying to work and just, so like there's always going to be people working, and like it can get in your head like, oh, other people on my course are working. Oh, I better start working, kind of thing. And if you're not like, getting involved in other things, it's very easy to just, I don't know, I guess live like a almost, I don't know, solitary life, I'd say.
Yeah. No, I hear that. I hear that.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think
So
I
yeah,
definitely it is difficult. I think for me that was similar second year of university for me where it was almost I believed, I got in such a rut of working and it was just every day and non-stop for so many hours. And you know what, actually when I think back to what started that kind of process, I had a friend who there's this building in Sheffield called the Diamond, and it's like one of our engineering buildings. So we were always in there. And one of my friends, he just got a part-time job working at like Sky call center or something, and he brought his laptop to this Diamond, his work laptop, and he gets a call from his manager. So he's in a Zoom call with his manager, and his manager's like, "Oh, is that the Diamond?" And he was like, "Oh yeah. Like, how do you know it's the Diamond?" And I'm just listening to this whole conversation. Like, obviously he couldn't see me, and the guy, his manager, was saying, "Oh yeah, he did computer science at Sheffield, and now he's working this job." And I remember thinking before, up to this point, right, I had the belief that if you do engineering or computer science after uni, you're going to be fine. Like you're going to get a really good job, that you're going to make money, and it's all going to be okay. Like even if you don't do that well, if you just like you're still going to get a good job. And then seeing this guy who'd gone to the same university as me, was doing computer science, and he wasn't in a good paid job, and it wasn't really enjoying it. He was like all this stuff, and I was like, oh, I actually need to properly start working. That was the kick up the arse for me, where I realized that it's not all just going to come with just from my degree alone. I actually have to put in some work. So then I kind of got in this just feeling like I had to do work all the time, and like for that entire year I was just so like locked in. But I think it definitely degraded my mental health, where I was working too much, not having a balanced lifestyle, and like my friends around me would tell me that like I need to not work as much. Like it's getting like too much. So yeah, I think after that, now I'm live more balanced lifestyle in it, and I think in the end the work you do is more productive and it makes more sense. It's almost like when you have a more balanced lifestyle, that when you do come to work, it's almost you have a clearer, you can look at it clearer, more clear.
Yeah. Like sometimes I just taking time out, like actually coming back to something, you're like, oh wait, it was kind of obvious, like not obvious, but like you kind of look at things in different ways, like any problem that you're on, or like, and also you just wear yourself out if you just like, I don't know, I've gone in processes where I've like spent like, I don't know, 12 days just working, and then, or like not 12, sorry, like like doing it like 18-hour days for like a long time, and you just, I don't know, you lose like after like a week or a bit, you like just completely burn out. And, you have to be doing nothing, and it's just like it's not healthy.
You turn into
I
like
agree.
a zombie.
Yeah. Was that when like, because I remember you saying like you've jumped about like a few different courses.
Yeah,
Was
yeah.
that like for the
That was what was that? I think so. Yeah, I've changed degrees a few times. I was doing computer science, then mechanical engineering, then electrical engineering, and now I'm finally
yeah?
robotics engineering. Where was that? That was, I think, that was my first year robotics, because I'd had so many chances at this point. I'd like changed degrees so many times. I felt like I proper had to lock in now and take it seriously. And
Yeah.
I just had no balance whatsoever, and I just did it the wrong way. But second year robotics was a lot more fun. I was more balanced, and it was more enjoyable. Um, yeah, I think it is something you have to sort of learn from experience, that it doesn't, because I think at the beginning you're kind of like, oh, surely if I just do more work, I'll just do better. Like it's a linear sort of
Yeah.
thing.
Yeah.
But then it does not. It tailors off very quickly until it starts going back down again. And that took me some time to get to that point. So I wanted to. So I have some more questions about Oxford. I wanted to talk about the culture there, and different things going on. I think from the outside perspective, uh, I have. So obviously I don't go to Oxford, so I have an external view of it. And I think we talked a little bit before about societies and clubs, like the Bullingdon Club and things like that.
Yeah.
So I'll explain a little bit to viewers like what the Bullingdon Club is, and you can tell me if people discuss it at Oxford, and like what people's view of that sort of things are. So my understanding of what the Bullingdon Club is was it was an exclusive club at Oxford where you almost had to be invited by people to join. It was run by students, and it has a long history of being a club for the past couple of 100 years. And people like David Cameron, Boris Johnson were part of this club, and they would go to pubs and just get absolutely wasted and just destroy beer glasses and just destroy things and then pay off people in the end. And a lot of traditions like that. And a lot of our former prime ministers, the fact they've been part of this club, that's a very exclusive thing. Do you hear much about those sorts of societies? Are there similar ones to that? Are they more not discussed? Do you know people that are involved? Like what sort of things? What's your impression of that? Do you ever even think about it?
To that, I do. I mean, there are definitely similar societies. Like you hear about it. Like a couple of my friends go to some similar things where you have to be invited to like exclusive parties that they just or exclusive groups where they just do like I don't know what random wild things for like I don't know. So you do hear about it. I mean, I haven't actually heard about Bullingdon Club in Oxford like since I've been here, so I don't know if it's still going on. But yeah, you definitely do hear about it a lot. Well, you don't hear about it a lot. You hear about it like from time to time, but it's definitely still a thing, I'd say. You don't hear about like as like terrible stories that you used to hear, but like
Yeah.
there are definitely like certain things around. I mean, like from I don't know how many people like I haven't really had I don't know I don't know too much about it. I haven't seen it too much, but you do like see some exclusive drinking societies basically.
Do you think
Around.
a lot of people at Oxford are very focused on like networking and getting to know people that like after uni?
You get like a real mix of people.
Yeah.
Because there are some that are like so like the first thing you do when you meet them is like, what's your LinkedIn kind of thing,
Yeah,
well, like they want to make sure they've networked with every single person, or they go to like they don't like focus on their degree, they focus on going to like all these events and like just networking and stuff like that. So it's like rather than obviously like they're there to learn, but like spending most of their time just getting to know people and just making sure like I don't know they're known around.
yeah.
But yeah, you also get like the polar opposite where like there's some people that just don't want to speak to like a single person.
Where do you think you lie on that spectrum?
Um, I think I lie. Ooh, it depends how I'm feeling. Like there's some times where I'm like, I go to say like an engineering event, like like I'm not trying to like network with like loads of people, but like sometimes go to an engineering event and see if there's like someone there or like a company there that I want to like that I'm interested in, and then I'll obviously just go out like network, like get to know them,
Yeah.
Try sell myself a bit.
Yeah.
But like most of the time I'm like locked away in the library, just trying to do my problem shooters. So
That's good. That's
uh,
good.
but
So,
yeah, I think more in first year I was like in first year I was thinking, oh, I got a network, but like I can't lie, fourth year I'm just like, what's
of course, there's no point. I just wanted to get my
there's no
degree now.
yeah.
Yeah. So,
um
one thing that I'm always interested in talking to people about is their faith and religion. So personally, I'm agnostic, so I believe that there's not necessarily enough evidence for me to absolutely say I believe in a certain God or a religion. But I also don't believe that there's enough evidence to disprove it. So I'm kind of there floating about in the middle, discussing with people what their views are and kind of learning what they believe in and why.
yeah.
You told me that you're a Christian, that you went to church earlier today actually, and
Yeah.
have you always been a Christian? Was it there a time that you started believing more than before, or?
Yeah, so like both my parents were Christian. So I grew up in like kind of a Christian household. Um, but like, and I didn't really question it for a long time, to be fair. Um, and then like, I think it was when I went to like, when I moved actually school from like the state school that I'd gone to the private school, like my whole friendship group were like changed and they were all very much, I don't know, like, they were all asking me questions, like kind of stuff, and like questions I hadn't really thought about. So like, I went through like a time, I guess, of like really questioning it, and I think it was only until like I really came to uni where I was like properly, I guess. I thought, this. I thought, I guess I became more Christian in a way.
Why do you
Uh,
think going to
yeah.
uni made you like a stronger believer in God or Christianity?
Because I think when when I was at home, uh, like the decisions I made, I wasn't like really making decisions myself in a way. Like it was kind of like most of my day was decided by either like what my parents were doing or like what like when I was coming back for dinner, like or or something like that, or just going to school and stuff. Whereas in university, you kind of have a lot more freedom. And so I say like in a sense, like my faith was kind of my parents' faith. Um, I'd say like back when I was at home, but when I came to university, like I really decided to like kind of explore that and like really understand whether it was something that I thought was worth following. So yeah,
Do you
so I
think?
kind of like yeah.
I was gonna say, do you think that talking to people? Did you talk to people at Oxford about it? Did they question your faith, or because I feel like with
Okay.
yeah
Yeah, as well. Like my friends do as well. Like we've had conversations before
yeah
as well. Like I mean, a lot of people do, and that in a way, like it makes you like questions thing. Like you start thinking about questions you hadn't thought about, but like it also kind of gives you confidence in a way. I don't know. Like obviously people have different viewpoints, and like people are gonna see things differently, but like it's kind of like nice to be challenged in your faith because then you're like, I don't know.
it gets you
Because
thinking
then
about
you
it.
get to grow, I guess. Yeah, I know.
Yeah.
But,
What would
yeah.
you say your process of finding like finding? You said it was your parents' faith before, and then it transitioned to your faith. What was your process of
Mm.
creating making it your faith? Do you think there was like research, or did you just think through
Yeah.
what it meant to you? Because I think what I struggle with religion is I think there's two aspects to it. I feel like there's the God, there's this belief in a higher power, and then there's the religion itself, like Christianity, Islam. Uh, and for me, I have to keep these two separate because when they intertwine, they conflict too much that I cannot believe in them when they're together. Like if I put the Bible and the Quran and all these things with my belief of a higher power, my thought is just to break down these books and human nature and like myths and all this time in between and lack of records, and it gets in the way of a God. But I have to keep them separate. What are your thoughts on that? Like, do you have to keep them separate, or?
Yeah, well, this is kind of because I kind of went through a logical process. Well, I say logical, but maybe some people would think about like about deciding whether to follow it, like whether I think it's true. And there's lots of times that like I've questioned things, and like so like obviously, so you do have like so like one of the main reasons. I'm not going to say one of the main reasons, but one of the main reasons why I believe is my personal kind of experience within sort of the church and like that how I think like my own personal experience in my faith kind of and my life tracks to the Bible. That's kind of like a sort of core reason, but that wasn't sort of a good enough reason for me. And so like I think personally looking at like sort of almost on a science aspect, like parts of like creation, like parts of like the universe, like cells or like the Big Bang itself, I feel like has a designer, like has some sort of creator. Like I think it needs that. But again, that doesn't necessarily translate to a Christian God, which I get what you're saying. Like that could be someone who just creates it and then just goes away. So like you can separate, I guess, like I see how you can like a God and like faith, because just because there is a God doesn't necessarily mean you need faith. Just because someone's like there's been a creator, it doesn't mean you have faith. But when you look at like, at least in my opinion, when you look at the main faiths, like I'm going to say the popular faiths, I don't want to call them main faiths, but like Christianity, Islam, like Judaism, Hinduism, even, they all teach like very similar things, which I think is quite cool in a way. Like even though yes, they do have massive differences, but like at the core, I feel like they teach very similar things, which is quite cool.
So you think that almost like that being Christian, for example, is like those similar things could be argued like their morals and like the ethics of that they teach, and also like preaching like family values and community service and coming together. You think those are the reasons why you'd call yourself like a Christian, is to associate yourself with those values and like learn those values, or what do you think?
In a way, yeah. So like, one of the things I struggled with like when I was kind of Christian is like why there's so many different kind of beliefs. If there's only, I guess if they're conflicting, like they can't all be true. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
But when you look like fundamental, like at the core of some of these beliefs, like is like believing in a creator and like loving creator and loving the people around you. And also like belief in a soul and stuff like that, and also belief in like judgment at the end, and like they're quite core beliefs to like all these religions. But then obviously they can't all be true. So the reason why I say I'm Christian and why I chose to follow Christianity rather than say like Islam or like Hinduism, I mean I did grow up Christian, but also I found part of the history in terms of like personally I think like the history of Jesus, at least from what I've read, is convincing. And also again my own experience in like church and faith has also convinced me slightly of that. So like it was kind of those two aspects together which kind of why I decided that like I would carry on being Christian. But like obviously the aspect of the other like religions and like God itself, like they still have like similar values as such.
Yeah.
So
that makes sense.
So I don't know if
that does answer the question.
Yeah.
I think the topic of like the Bible and the stories it tells is an interesting one. So obviously it has a lot of stories, and to me a lot of them seem almost magical. Which
Yeah.
And how do you think the stories in the Bible, do you think they conflict with like ideas of evolution or things like that? Like, to me, see, this is why I have to split them again, is because you have stories like the universe's creation in like 7 days and all this sort of stuff. Whereas to me that conflicts with obviously science, like what we say with the Big Bang, or unless. So it's almost like, do you choose to like overlap science with religion, or keep science and religion separate, or do you like to overlap them?
Yeah, no, that's a great question. Like, and that's a hard question. I mean, it's stuff
difficult.
that like it's difficult because there is evidence for evolution, and like it does in a way. I mean, it doesn't necessarily I don't feel like it necessarily conflicts the Bible. In
Like,
some
okay,
senses.
I'll ask you a question. So I asked my
Yeah.
friends, like, do they have any questions for the episode of the podcast? And one of them was like kind of joking, but I actually liked his question. I think you can look at it seriously in a way. And he said,
Okay.
how did Jesus walk on water? And I feel like if I ask you that question, like how do you think you would answer that question?
Well, yeah, that's a good question. How did Jesus walk on water? Well, it's like, in a sense, how did Jesus do anything? Like, it wasn't like he did many miracles, but like healing someone of leprosy, or like turning water into wine, or like even like you raising someone from the dead, like that's defying like the laws of physics already. So like him walking on water, although it does, I guess, kind of defy the natural laws of physics, the fact that he's done the miracles before means he can do miracles like that. And a belief of a belief of Christians is that Jesus is actually God. So like if you have this God, this creator who's created these laws of physics, like he's put them into being, it would make sense that a God incarnate in human form could also defy these laws. And so that's how I'd say that Jesus walks on water, because he has the power to do so. But
yeah, that's a really good answer. I like that. That's a really good answer. I like that. That was because I think my friend said that as a joke, and I was like, actually, I think you can answer that. I think that the question in itself brings together all the ideas of what, like, of belief, and like if you think of someone who's got power doing something that's supernatural. That was interesting. I think we are coming towards the end, so I want to talk a bit about the future before we finish up.
yeah.
So you have a grad scheme sorted now. Do you want to talk a bit about that, like what your graduate scheme is?
Yeah. So I've got grad scheme at it's called the Science and Technology Facilities Council. They're part of like UKRI. And I'll be doing a grad scheme in the electrical engineering kind of department of that. So I'm looking forward to that. That'll be next year. And it'll be for 2 years. And so I was just always interested in like, I've always been interested in physics and like particles and stuff, and like I just always thought like it's kind of cool. And so like I've always, I don't know, being an engineer in like that environment, like I'm kind of excited to be an engineer in that environment. I can't lie, like it will be cool. Like I don't think I'm going to start off doing the exciting things, I think
Your way up.
my way up.
Yeah.
But yeah, no, I am excited. They've done some really cool things. So
yeah, because you mentioned to me the other day about they were the company that's worked on some of the components for that.
Yeah.
You want to talk about that a little bit?
Yeah, so they've worked on I actually don't know what components they've worked on in the Parker probe, so the Parker probe is a probe that's gone really close to the sun. It's like if the Earth was here, and like the sun was here. I don't have enough hands, but the Parker probe is basically here. So like it's really close. It's like it's based 5 sun distance away. And they worked on like some of the instruments on that. So 2 of the instruments, I don't know which ones. But But yeah, it's kind of cool. They've also done like stuff with CERN. They build like particle accelerators as well. Like they build like muon accelerators. They've also built like a diamond light source, which is basically an electron microscope. I think they like fire like electrons at really, really high speeds, like pretty much the speed of light.
Yeah.
And it releases like so much light that like you can get, I think, really high resolution like close up images. So they do loads of like really
That's
cool
really
things.
cool.
It'll be a cool environment. But I think I'll be working on like the electrical systems.
You're building up.
in the buildings
That's brilliant.
themselves.
I mean, I think it's really exciting working on unique projects like that because it tests your theoretical knowledge. I did see that one of the factors with that space probe was that because it went so close to the sun, all of the electrical systems had to be designed to withstand so much radiation, so much heat.
Yeah.
And obviously that adds so many complications to the engineering design process. So I think you getting to work on all these like unique engineering projects will be super, super fun and interesting. I'm excited to hear all the stories of it because it's definitely
it'll be fun. It'll be fun. I'm looking forward to it.
Good.
But yeah.
So what are your hopes for next year?
Is...
You wanna work there, and then do you have any ideas what you want to do after that, or right now you're just excited to get started with this and graduate?
I have no idea. I'm excited to work for them. I do want to go abroad at some point. Like, I've been in the UK like a lot of my life. So it'd be nice to work abroad at some point and like actually experience like a different culture, like in the ripe age that I am. You know, like at 5 years, I didn't really know what was going on, but like it'd be nice to work and see somewhere else.
Absolutely.
So that'd be quite cool. But yeah, I think I still want to be like a electrical engineer.
Nice. Excellent. Well, thank you for coming on the podcast. It's been great having you.
Thank you for having me.
And have a good rest of your day. And I'll speak to you later.
Speak to you soon. See ya. Cheers.